The title we chose, apart from the code word that was asked, the super ephemeral, it's this kind of a word that we basically invented for the second stage of the competition. Our first attempt was to talk about stone nature and mighty ladies, which is a little bit baffling as a topic, but I'll explain that a bit further. I think that the word super ephemeral, what we mean by that is that we're living in a world where everything is becoming mixed up. We're constantly somehow under the influence of all kinds of post-digital visual cultures where different kinds of histories and different kind of bodies of deep knowledge are being somehow fed to us in an ever-increasing speed, and it's up to us to somehow make sense of what the ephemeral moment and what the sort of solid stone moments mean. And if the sort of way of telling history or writing history or saying what really matters was since, I don't know, today, this idea that you write books or you present these historical timelines and so on, we're kind of approaching this situation where something like just doing an image search on Google or something comes up with all kinds of references that in essence are already a curated versions of the reality or history. And perhaps the question then is momentary historical or is momentary ever architectural? Can simple movements or simple just ephemeral things actually become architectural? And if this is the case, then where are the stones in the post-digital? Where are the places or the sort of foundations and the fundamentals that we have so eagerly or tried to build the history of architecture or the history of culture? So in order to look into this topic, we propose a curatorial framework or a platform where this inquiry can happen. This attempt is to have a research-based design dialogue with practitioners and other people to generate an ephemeral collection, a new kind of collection, to create a situation where both the follies and the eternal qualities of the architectural past can potentially meet and create a new conscious observations on the presence of history in contemporary architecture. So what really is the collection in the post-digital? If Sir John Soane's house represents a kind of an old version of a collection, what is it today? Or what is architecture of things? The super ephemeral is this realization that certain things read as architectural even though they were never meant to be. The industry curtains or the Twin Peaks or the 16th century Livonian ladies' capes somehow are architectural. For the theme of free space, there is a kind of response that we feel that this proposal takes, that these moments, these sort of ephemeral possibilities are also potentially creating architecture, and which essence is the concept of free space. So as an exhibition, we propose these kind of kinetic enclosures or shapes or capes or ladies that are perhaps twirling, and around them or in midst them are collages of this ephemeral collection that we would be building. And the idea basically is to have also displays that take the shape of physical assemblages or videos that bring together contemporary practices from Estonia. So it's kind of important that in this curatorial frame we also have a chance to work with contemporary practitioners. And these happen under subtitles or sub-themes, such as castles, where the castle, in a way, is something that we're seeking new monumentality or permanence, and perhaps finding a practice to work with who can identify these questions in their contemporary work. Or the idea of stones. Are there fundamentals in architecture? There's a lot of interest these days, even if you look at architecture students' work, they kind of reference Palladius villas and Renaissance and so on. What are really the stones of architecture? We would like to find a practice or practitioners who can give us responses to this question. Or the ephemeral of movement, of body-driven experiences or spatial considerations. We would like to find a practice to work with who can give us answers on alternative projects and the temporal and body-driven experiences. The subtopic of words we propose as the public program, as well as a video that kind of collects spoken word, letters, essays, ideas about wordings of people, contributors, cultural agents who would potentially become then part of the public program. And finally, there's something called Dreams, which is basically our projection of the post-digital or super-ephemeral future to amass this kind of a huge collection of images that operate as this continuous feed of the contemporary. These might include simply works by practices engaging with digital production, algorithms, collages, post-digital drawings, or experimental or utopian ways of projecting the idea of history as past future. I tried to be quick, and I was, so that's basically the last slide. If you have questions, I'm happy to take them.
Please, questions. Maybe the jury is first one. Veronica.
Perhaps a question you maybe don't know the answer yet. Potential collaborators or people you are thinking of working with. Do you have any kind of specifics who these people are? Or are you just kind of, in a sense, speculating that these topics are around in Estonia? Or you know specifically the people that you would like to work with? Or is it an open call? Or how do you solve that?
Well, I think the topics in general are pretty much of global interest, and they would be probably available or found the similar interests in all kinds of contexts, and I assume in Estonia too, especially from what I know. But yes, our idea is to seek out either through let's say, for instance, open call or a kind of like, which I guess is a more presented in a more elaborate way in our second stage proposal, and also to working together potentially with a local associate curator. This is something that we would also like to have a call for.
So you will have a public call for the local curator?
Yes.
So more questions. No
Anybody?
more question from jury?
If anybody
No.
has a question, just raise their hands, then we know what to come with the microphone with.
There are one question.
So do you expect to have new production for the exhibition, or you would be looking for something which has been done, which is there, which you can exhibit, or is it kind of a combination of both?
Well, I think the idea is to use the idea of the post-digital culture as a way to give an opportunity for existing practices to do projects on their projects, not merely to present the projects as, here's my nice building and so on, but to ask questions. What do you think is the fundamental architecture of this? And to ask for projects and to create projects that tackle that.
Okay, thank you. And there are a third question. Please.
I guess that's the time to ask questions, so I just ask. Stones, castles, dances, words, dreams. Can you kind of pick some of them, leave some of them out, or is it kind of like a fixed 5 of them?
Well, I think that, well, castles, stones, I mean, something similar there, for instance. And I think that partly it doesn't really matter what form these might take. Maybe the stones art is the actual presentation. Maybe the castles is the title of a video that is on display. So I think there are kind of, but these were sort of words that somehow resonated, and 5 was a nice number to have. So.
Sorry, one more question. From the images you showed a collage of the possible exhibition, which did not really look like being in the Arsenale. Is there a sort of a clear concept of not being in the Arsenale? Or?
Well, I think that we thought that, well, anyway, Arsenale is always a kind of a very, it's a sort of a neutral space. You can kind of like put anything there and so on. But we thought that with these enclosures, for instance, it would offer an opportunity to use also spaces that are not specifically usable for other types of exhibitions. These might include even like staircases or the other types of places. So in the collages, we showed actually one of the places is Arsenale, but I guess it's on the top floor. But of course, it's quite flexible in terms of where you can hang these kind of items and so on. But we would like this to be an sort of an intervention in an interior space, regardless of maybe what space.
Okay, thank you. If we don't have any more questions, then we thank you. And
Thank you.
Thank you. And there's a small present from Estonian Center of Architecture from our
Yeah, just kidding.
publications.